Hello, this is Desmond Lynch. You are about to listen to an interview I recorded with Craig Sheridan, the lead sound engineer at Amps Studio Belfast. I recorded this with Craig back in August. I only got around to editing it now as I had a very busy schedule with work and my many other projects. Fair warning, there's some minor background noise as me and Craig were both participating in the interview, so we didn't have a third party listening out for background noises to be wary about. So occasionally you'll hear dogs, minor clatter from the hallway, water bottle noise, stuff like that. I am also a lot more candid than I typically would be in these audio uploads, so prepare yourself for that as well. Anyway, let's begin. All right, now we're in the shell. Thanks. Hello, my name is Desmond Lynch. I'm 23 years old, and I want to be a filmmaker. So, yeah, I'm here today with the very lovely Craig Sheridan here in his studio, Amps Studio. Can you say hello, Craig?
Hello, my name's Craig, and I work at Amps Studio.
Amps Studio, lovely. And for those that don't know, I am the creator of the Witch in the Orchard podcast, alongside some audio shorts such as Be Afraid of the Dark. You can check out my stuff on Spotify at the Witch in the Orchard / the Witch Podcast. And there's also a Buzzsprout website, and there's also on various other platforms when you can check out my socials on at Real Desmond Lynch on Instagram, Real Des Lynch on TikTok, Real Desmond Lynch on Twitter, I think. And I think I have too many socials, Craig, so it's hard to keep track.
Yeah,
you know. And I don't even know if Twitter's useful at all for promotion. So I don't know, I only post random stuff and just.
Yeah, funny enough, yesterday we are on a pre-sale list to buy some tickets for an acoustic show for Dermot Kennedy, my wife, massive fan. We bought the album, got the pre-sale link. The pre-sale link that was sent out was the wrong link, and they updated that on Twitter, but nowhere else. Now, I would have imagined they would have emailed the people who had bought the album, but they sent it out on Twitter. So anybody who was on Twitter got that pre-sale. So Twitter's still useful. Just, the rest of us don't really pay attention.
I remember a few months back, me and my buddy were big fans of this American singer called Sean James. He's very indie. I think he's country folk or something like that. I remember he was playing here at Voodoo. Again, he's very indie, but so he just came to Belfast. He was performing in Dublin and Belfast. And I remember we were trying to get tickets for him. He actually bought tickets for Voodoo, but it was during COVID times as well. And it's the first time everyone was opening up. I remember my buddy was just like Voodoo's not advertising it whatsoever. We already bought tickets, and he was contacting Voodoo. He's like, is this show still on, or what the fuck's going on? And they just didn't really get back to him. And ended up to the point is this show happening? We just didn't go. And I don't know, it did happen. It was just it was miscommunicated, and Voodoo wasn't promoting it right, and it was just fucking head case, and we just didn't get any money back. But that said, I actually do quite like Voodoo. I think I've been to several metal gigs there. Been lovely atmosphere.
Voodoo's one of them places though you walk in and it feels too loud. Your body knows it's wrong, but everything about you doesn't want to leave.
Hey, it's better than Thompson's. Better
well,
than
you can't say Thompson's.
Nah, that's just saying water's wet, but it's just
everybody needs water. That's all I'm saying.
Whatever, you're a freak there, Craig. But anyway, on to the questions. This is a interview podcast with the very lovely Craig Sheridan. Of course, this is as professional as we get.
Yeah.
And first question up here, Craig. Real softball one. Who are you, and what do you do?
Well, my name's Craig Sheridan, and I am an absolute audio nerd, and I do absolutely anything I can to stay working in audio. My actual 9 to 5 is as a music technology trainer here in Amps Studio. And I was brought in here to deliver music technology training, which was basically sequencer-based training, so Cubase or Reason or Ableton. And then over the time that I've been here, some engineers have left. I filled that role. I'm now the senior engineer in the recording studio too, and we do everything. Anything you can basically point a mic in front of, we will record it. So we've done trad setups, we've done voiceover for film and media, we've done screen capture stuff, we've done a bunch of live recordings. Especially during lockdown, it was a whole new area. We didn't have many people coming through the place, obviously, because the building was locked down. But there were events that were supposed to be on that then became recorded events for TV and video, well, YouTube essentially. And we were kind of drafted in to do the live recording for that and then the mixing after, which was a fantastic thing to keep your skills up. So anything that can go on in terms of music production, we're involved in here. And we're very privileged this year to have 6 graduates from Queen's who come through on placement, and having that new blood coming through the place is absolutely priceless, because it means that we get to reevaluate how we're doing things, and we also kind of keep an eye on what's going on culturally with people that are much younger, much more social than ourselves. So it's a fantastic place to work. It's a fantastic place to be, and the opportunities it present, you can't really account for. You can't imagine what's going to come through the door from one day to the next.
Yeah, and I will say, as a creative, it's actually a very good place if you're on a tight budget. I remember I was scouting studios here for a thing. I was on the Media Therapy, one of our largest Facebook groups. It's basically where you go to get actors, get advice from local creatives, basically to help out your projects. I remember
the Tinder of the film world.
a Tinder that works. I'll tell you that. I haven't had much luck with that. other one. But like, but no, I remember like scouting other places, and like fellas were like, "Oh, going on to Dublin, it's actually cheaper." I checked Dublin, objectively more expensive, like by a fucking mile. Like I have to pay for bus tickets for the actors. I have to fucking like pay like 80 euro for a fucking hour, as compared to Amps, you get £30 for an hour. Or
Yeah.
I don't know if like that's the same price and kind of.
Yep, still going like that. Minimum 2 hour booking, £30 an hour.
Oh yeah, no, and you need like that 2 hour booking, because like I remember like literally our final session here at the Orchard was like me, you, and Frank, and I decided that because like Frank Cannon, if you guys don't know, is the greatest fucking crack you can ever have on a film set. Like, I remember like I met him like back in uni, like season my final year film, and like I was like, this dude's great. I'm gonna have him be the narrator for my podcast, and he was like, yeah, Des, I'm all board. And he didn't even know he was getting paid, and I ended up like sending it to his like agent, and then the agent like told him he got paid, and he just said, Des, and he just messaged me, Des, I didn't expect that. What the fuck? and I remember like, no, he showed up. He was great crack. Like, and like I remember like I wanted him the last day because we were just like literally it was just the credits and like some redos of narration because I think we slipped up in some parts. But we didn't literally got like I was telling my buddy Justinas, who's like a big sound nerd like you, Craig. I was basically explaining like we have like a 2 hour session because budget wise I was just like out of money and like I remember like the 2 hours all I could afford. And I was like, honestly, I'd be surprised if we got credits done. Like, and he's just like, really, 2 hours? You can do all that much stuff. I'm like, no. You understand? It's just like 1.5 hours of us just talking other shit and then half an hour of just work. So that's all it is. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, when you do bring a good point, though, I mean, sometimes the crack does get in the way when you've got a session. But if you're very strict and you know what you're coming in for, then it's a very productive use of time. And there have been sessions where we've got an amazing amount of work done in the 2 hours, and there has been time when we're a bit more casual about it, where there's a whole lot of fun. But I think that's more indicative of the company that's there and the flow of production. You have to have the momentum before you work through that stress. And then that when you get that camaraderie, that's a kind of reflection of how well the session has went until that point, I find. But the 2 hour session thing is very important because in any circumstance, when you go to a new place, there's an element of stress involved, even if it's very pleasant. It's the first time you've been there, there's a lot of uncertainties. By the time you get in, get settled, get down, make a plan for the session, get in, do your sound check, do your test, and know what you want to do and just be familiar, you're talking about 45 minutes. Really? So that gives you a good solid 45 minutes to get some work done, and then it's time to save up and archive and export stuff. So like really the 2 hours might seem a bit over the top for a small recording session, but it's really about getting you used to the recording environment, because after that it'll never be as stressful as that. And once clients are here and they've been through the doors once, the next time they arrive, it's a totally different thing, and it's a much more there's a lot more crack the second time too.
Oh yeah, because I was like pure stressed out like when I was like making the orchard, because it was this, which like cost me near $2,000 to make, because I was like paying you, I was paying a very lovely fella called Kevin McHugh for the art, supplied the very lovely art we use for promotional materials, and then it's also paying the cast, total of like 10 people involved, like Frank Cannon, Margarita Murphy, Tasha Henderson, other people I can't be bored listing names off for right now.
All valuable assets, by the way.
All valuable assets, done very well.
And actually really give a lot of life to the performance. And I remember hearing it back after you did a few initial collages of the different takes, and it really hit me how powerful the performances were and how well you were able to stitch those up together to make it seem convincingly like it was a natural flow.
Like conversation, because we were like, in case you don't know, like all these like audio recordings were recorded on individuals. So there was like outside of like maybe rehearsals for like certain scenes we done rehearsals for, and like we were doing a table read with you and Frank talking about doing a table read. I was like, no, dude, you can't, like, it's not worth like paying money for like a room and all that stuff, and you have to get people in. As only like, and there's some people who only have like 2 free lines like in free episodes, and you're just like, yeah, fair. And like, so I can't ask them to come up like on a Wednesday evening and spend like 2 hours just sitting in the polite while everyone else is acting, and it's like yeah, it's like you can't do that. But like, no, it was good. And but yeah, no, it was like that editing process, like that just took like a fucking bitch, and actually like it took me like way longer than I, because I remember like I messaged you back in January, and I was almost like, oh no, like I'm gonna get the orchard done by like, end of January, and like fast forward like 5 months still hadn't been done, like, because I was just getting fed up of it, because it was just like it took like near like a month just like going through audio and deciding which takes were good, which ones were bad, and you had to fix out pacing. You also had to find music, and you had to find sound effects, and like there was like stuff like a big question for us like in the sound mixing was like, there's a scene in episode 3 where like the ground breaks up and there's a big river of black acidic blood, and that's like a whole thing in his narrative. And I don't know if you guys notice or not, but there is no such thing as a river of acid. That sonically does not exist. The best I could find was like out in Russia there was like I think like a cyanide or like a mine that just like they were like digging for something like that, and they accidentally came across like some cyanide in the mountain, and that just like flowed out of like the mine and down into the thing, just basically ruined the landscape and created this like nasty looking river of acid. But obviously no one recorded the sound for that.
No.
So like I don't know what that sounded like, and that was like a thing. Like I asked my buddy Justinus, I was asking you, I was asking John McDonough, who's also our second sound engineer that worked on this podcast. I remember I was asking you guys, you're giving me like ideas and all that stuff because obviously it doesn't have the same volume as like in texture of like a water of river or river of water that is, but it's also acid and it's also blood at the same time. So it's just like, what does that even sound like? And I just got to the point where I just like when I was mixing, I would say, okay, like I'll put like several layers on. So there's one layer of acid, one layer of an actual normal river. So you have that flow, and you have like that the weird like crispy like thing, and also you have like sort of rumble sound effects, all that nasty shit. And on top of it, fuck it, why not? Just like some weird wind. So it's like classic like like fantasy movie back in the 80s with like the fucking wind machines on, and like Tom Cruise is just like walking about. And it's like I can't stand, and it's just like so much crazy shit going on. And there's also in that sound mix, there's also a big issue of just like, okay, all these like sounds are like super cool and all that stuff. Dialogue is essential and narration is essential, so all that stuff has to be heard, and it has to be heard clearly. So like a lot of stuff because like, oh, like a big boom would be cool here, but it's going to take over Frank's voice, so no, big boom not ideal here, so you have to keep that down to it, like a level where it's like impactful but like not too distracting where you can't hear Frank's voice. So that was part of the stress of like trying to figure all that stuff out. And I couldn't talk to anyone about that in real life because you're just like trying to talk to people. There's just people probably listening right now who are just like, yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? But like, no, I was like stressing out about that for months on end, just trying to figure out all that stuff. And you're trying to figure out like, okay, does this fit here? Does that fit there? Does this line work at all? Does this performance suit this conversation, this angle, and all that stuff? So that was like, there's like a lot of thinking that goes involved in this. And believe me, you do get tired of thinking sometimes. So like,
yes, tired of thinking is probably the biggest problem. And then the second guessing, is it working? Is it working?
Yeah.
And then your ears get tired, and then you don't hear the truth anyway.
And there's also like a part of me, I think I went deaf at one point. Speaking of voodoo, I went deaf because I went to voodoo.
Yes.
And I was in a mosh pit, and I think there's either like two things happened to me. I think either like my buddy says, oh, there's like them like earplug things, and I put them in, they might have pushed some earwax in. I also got punched in the head by accident that night as well. So I was in the mosh pit, and like some like fucking like some guy just like fucking accidentally hit me, and accidentally, mind you, accidentally. He didn't hit me because he didn't hit me that hard, so it's not intentional. But like he just hit me like 3 times in the head, like hitting me like near the temple. I don't know if you noticed, boys, but if you like hit someone in the temple, you'll knock them out, you potentially kill them. Thankfully, he didn't hit me that hard. Like I just got hit by 3 times, and I have like anger issues as well. So I was in the mosh pit, and he just hit me 3 times and getting pushed about. I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave. And I remember like it was like that was like funny as well because I remember like before that happened, I was there. I literally just got there, and I remember just like I was like watching the band on stage, and this like wee girl kicked me. And I looked behind and I saw this wee girl, and she was staring at me. I don't know if it's like she was like being flirtatious or trying to get my attention or just like trying to get me out the fucking way. And it was a weird trifecta situation. There was too much going on. And I remember just like looking at her and I was like, what the fuck's going on? And I turned back and I was like, well, is that Tasha Henderson, aka the pale girl in the show? And I was like, I can't look back because did I work with you? Because that'd be rude as fuck. I remember just like I went to take a piss on the Voodoo toilet, and I remember just took my phone out and this message Tash, here, I'm at this thing in Voodoo, are you there? And as soon as I sent the message, I was just like, oh wait, no, Tash is deaf. Like, why would she go to like a heavy metal gig that could damage her eardrums? Like, and I like felt like the dumbest rat in the world. Like, I remember like she like messaged me back. She's like, oh no, hi Des, I haven't spoke to you in like 6 months. No, I'm not at this heavy metal concert. She's very civil about it, and I was like, I just felt so dumb. Hey, it was just like, oh.
Well, speaking of Tash, it does bring back to the time when she was in booth, and for a small human, the amount of volume that person can create was incredible. And also the creep factor was very high that day. I do remember you.
Yeah. No,
is wincing the word in your chair?
Yeah.
When you just start shrieking.
I think like wincing is an understatement actually, but like, you know.
Trying to be kind.
Oh no, like I'm not gonna lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a bit of a snowflake here. I don't like listening to women scream in agony. I'm sensitive like that. I don't know if you boys can relate, but like, you know, it was like that, and like I was literally like speaking of Tash, I was recording a short film there with a fellow called Jared Printer back at the start of August here in 2022, and Tasha was working on it. She was acting in it. I think at one point like she's like being like tortured and murdered and all that stuff, and so she had a scream. Of course, it was like the last one we done was just like we'll do the screams ADR. You can add that in the mix. I remember we went out to this like thing out in the hallway. Literally told like the garage downstairs here, you're gonna hear this woman scream. It's gonna be weird. Like, don't worry, she's not getting murdered. It's nothing bad's happening. It's literally just a film. And he's just like. Okay. I remember like we set up, I set my Zoom and my mic and all that stuff, and I was just like, Tasha's like, yeah, go ahead, and then she just like screamed her lungs off, and I was just like, Oh, that was fucking nasty, hey. But like, no, we got like free takes of that, and that was fine. But the first time I heard Tasha scream, of course, was in here, which I believe that was, we got all her stuff done in like one day. It was like a 4 hour session, I think it was.
Right, yeah.
Because Tasha plays one of the main villains. However, the villain's only in like 3 scenes, I believe, like speaking wise, and we just like knocked her out of the park. Like, I mean, like I remember like Tasha, like for her audition, because like when you're doing auditions, and auditions were an absolute rat to do. Like they were just, I hated them. So I remember like I'd auditioned like 20 people, and I remember like I recorded all of them on my phone as backup and my H6, my HM4 and stuff like that. And I remember just like listening back to it, and I just remember like I can't remember half of these people. Like, and you think like actual casting directors have to do this for like thousands,
yeah.
So you can just like, fuck that. Like, I remember just like, like when Tasha auditioned, like when she was doing the voice, I was like trying not to look at her because I was just like, oh, she's getting the part. Just like off the bat. No, it's weird. Like when you write someone and then like someone like fucking delivers it like perfectly. That's like the best feeling in the world. Like just hands on. Like, and I was just like, it was that. And I was also like, got very lucky with Aaron Hickland for like Frankfurt. I remember I was hesitant for Aaron for a wee second because like, you know, he was like super very friendly and like energetic. Like in his audition, he literally like started off. So like, he was talking about the slides. And he's like, the writing this is very good. And yeah. And I'm just like, oh really? Like those 2 pages, you think that's class? I'm like, because I see the worst in people. Craig's I'm like, oh, you're trying to get me. And he ended up getting the part, not because he was like, being pure flattering to me, but mostly just because like he was like the only like actor who was like, okay, this guy could seduce a 16-year-old girl. And Aaron got it, and like he was like, he was great. I think we'd done literally 2 sessions with him. His first one was a 5-hour session. We went a wee bit overtime because remember we were there, and like Aaron had the idea. I was like, oh, can I just go to get a black coffee while we're doing the session? I was like, okay. It actually turned out like a good idea because he's like on about like, oh no, like the black coffee will like help like soothe the voice, and he's doing the vocal exercises, and he fucking knocked it out the park.
Caffee makes it work around.
Yeah. I certainly need that to wake up. But I remember just like, he was great. And I remember just like, even listening back like hundreds of times, the fucking thing, you get sick of like certain lines and all that stuff. I remember just like, but Frankfurt was always just like what I look forward to. There's this one line that always like fucking like, it just like made me fucking like, I loved it so much. Where he's just like, there's a line in like episode 3 where he's talking about like, it's like, oh, you think you want to change the world? And he's like basically talking about like what do you want? Like, there's like, oh, like hold hands and like, run about in the mud like children because he's trying to understand like the lower classes, but he's just obviously such a shithead where he's like, what do you want to do? Like world peace? Like what? We're just gonna like roll around in the mud like pigs? What are you talking about? And he's just like, oh, you don't understand how the world works at all. And it was just so funny. He was just like, who the fuck is this? I don't know, just like Frankfurt just had no self-awareness. It was such like an insecure narcissist. It was so fun. It was like actually good because like during like pre-production, I had like individual like Zoom calls with like the actors basically discussing their characters. I had like a 1-hour conversation with Andrew McNeil who played Joseph. He was great, and Aaron and Tasha, I believe, and Margarita obviously, and stuff like that. That was good. So like it was a lot of work. It was all very heavily organized, and that was only question 1. Fuck me, but all right, but like that second question, we already established who are you and what is Amps Studio? Amps Studio, of course, is a very lovely recording studio here in Conway Mill. It's massive, like former mill that's been renovated and it's been rented out to various businesses. So you arrive here, there's like cafes, there's radio stations, there's gyms, all this stuff. But despite all of that, when you're recording in amps, none of that excess noise is picked up whatsoever, which is very lovely. And you get this place for a very good price. I actually always try to recommend you when I'm ever doing projects.
Yeah, we got a recommendation through, actually, it's tomorrow, I think, next week maybe. I should check the calendar before I commit to those things. There's a guy coming in to view the place back for recommendations, so thank you.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, no, it's like Amps is a great place if you want like, you have like a sound engineer on site and you like it's £30 an hour, minimum 2 hours, but like you can like pretty much like you can record bands here, you can do like audio podcasts, like audiobooks, all that stuff, type of jazz. It's a great for money.
We also have we've got this room and we've got the training room across the hall, and they're both about the same size. The training room's a bit bigger because there's workstations in there, but there's a small staging area set up. So for like table reads or practice or rehearsal times, you can hire any one of these rooms just for 30 quid for 3 hours. So if there's rehearsal opportunities that are going on, then these rooms are fantastic just to use, and it's just a matter of going on the website and booking that through the PayPal, and you're in. The recording stuff is it's always better to talk with an engineer, to talk to someone first, because everyone's recording needs are different. So it's always a good idea to know what you're kind of wanting to get into and get involved in. But thank you for the recommendation.
Nice. And I think because we're kind of pushed for time now, because I know you have to finish up soon, and I have to go to work as well. So we're both busy bees, unfortunately. So I'm going to skip 4 and 5, which were just like, what kind of project would you like to do? Because I think you already established that at the first question. And what is the future of Amps? Amps, you're going to just do more stuff like this. You've done like, literally, I think Fila last week as well and stuff like that.
Yep.
So like, you know, future of Amps is like just flat. And it's not just like Amps. Like they will like take their equipment and go out to live events as well. They're constantly on their Instagram. They're on Amps Studio on Instagram as well. And
that's right. Yeah. We have like I was saying, we had a bunch of people in from Queens over the summer, so they're all trained out now, which means that we have greater capacity to take on more work. So it'll be expansion as much as possible. But I am very keen on getting lots of recording and mixing projects in, because that's my heart really lies. I do love recording, but I feel a certain, and maybe it's an ego thing, but I love a certain satisfaction about getting a mix to that radio ready position where you play it against commercially released mixes that came from across the world, and it's right up there on par. That's a very satisfying day in the office for me.
Yeah, I know. Like, I think you do music as well.
I do. Yes, I've got a single coming out next Friday. I've got a live show next Friday, and I've got a DJ gig this week and next week. So I make electronic music of variety of tempo and genres, and that's all coming together next week for a new festival that's happening in Belfast called Blueprint, and hopefully it's the first year of many years.
Awesome. Our final question of the day is obviously about my project here, Craig. It's why we're here.
The Witch?
Of course. And it was literally just like, it would make more sense if it was question free, but it was like, what did you think about The Witch in the Orchard, also known as TWATO, when it's abbreviated?
Yeah, I remember that day.
So like, well, what did you think about the project when you first heard about it?
I thought it was interesting, but I didn't realize how prepped and organized you'd be, to be honest. The most surprising thing about the whole enterprise was the level of organization that you brought to it. And that was everything from coordinating people and being here to knowing what's going on and knowing how you want lines delivered and all this stuff that you were constantly juggling just to smooth out. And there were many occasions along the way where I was just throwing in my 2p worth as a complete observer, and you were patient enough to listen to ideas from the cast and from me chirping in your ear, but you had a very clear, concise idea already of where this was going to go. And I think that's the thing that made it that's what brought it together. So whenever I was saying earlier about it was interesting to hear how you stitched it together, you clearly had that idea already formulated in your mind and you were working towards that. And that's the very best type of client that I can hope to work with in that instance. So the project, I was thinking, this is a bit of fun, but I don't know if it's going to come together. And watching the project come together, it was fantastic. And I wasn't involved in all the recording. Obviously, Sean was involved in some of it too. So there was wee bits that I missed out on. In the creative industries, you need to be creative to make jobs. That's the thing that we always tell people. And for that whole project, everything from the concept, because I knew you were getting music written for it, and I thought the music sounded fantastic when you let me hear the demos, and the artwork, so it was very striking. And the way it was all brought together was fantastic. And I think the end of what I heard is the end of the project when you finished recording with us, before it was even finished, I knew you were going away with something really solid.
Oh, yeah. And I did deliver something solid. And that's like, this is sound my narcissistic, but I think like in this world, there are two types of men. There are like men like me, and there are shitheads. And I can. And,
is that a Chuck Norris line?
What is now like? But remember, like, no, they were like men like me, and that's not being like, you know, there's like men like me who are just like super organized, super like, you know, clean and efficient, all that stuff. And there are shitheads who are just, you know, just don't have their life together, or like have like no time management skills, have like no like organizational skills, any of that stuff. And that's not necessarily say that like being a shithead makes you a bad person. Some of my best friends are shitheads. And also it doesn't say like men like me who are like very well organized and have good time management skills are good people. Some of the worst people I've ever met, or, you know, have that good work ethic, that type of stuff. They're just, you know, sometimes they're good people, sometimes they're not. Of course, that's not a thing. But upon meeting a person, like seeing how they like walk and talk and how they just go about life, I can always tell you're a shithead or you're a man like me. And I remember just like I'll meet someone who's like great crack, and they're just talking in a way they compose themselves, in a way that they talk about politics and like how they get on. I'm just like, you're a shithead. You need to get sorted out. But like, I'd done this entire project by myself with like $2,000 of my own money, and everyone got paid. All the money went to good use. And I remember like, I think at one point we were doing like some funding application thing. I was talking to a very lovely Sal Brennan who helps here. She's the
studio manager.
Helps you. I'm like, yeah, big understatement here, Des. But no, I remember like talking to her. I was like, so you're just basically like getting a reference for me for like the funding application we were doing. And she's basically talking about that. And so she just like, looked at me, like, how old are you, Des? And I was like, at the time I was 22 years old. And she just looked at me, and was like, I thought you were older on kind of how, like, you know, organized you were. And they're like, oh, no, I'm just 22. At one point, I think, like, she was on to me, but like, oh, Des, you can actually, like, apply for this thing to get you, like, an assistant or something like that. And I was just like, I can't have an assistant. Like, it would be great, but I just, like, I can't pay an assistant. And also, like, the assistant would be older than me. That's just going to be a weird thing of just me telling an older person, like, here, get me a coffee, please. Just like,
I mean, you don't have to send them for coffees. You could do real work.
I don't know what I don't know.
The difficulty from your point of view for that is you have never been in a circumstance where you've had a reliable person to delegate to. So it's very hard to delegate whenever you're juggling so many things at one time. And Sal told me off for that at one point too, especially when we started bringing placement students in here. And she was like, you need to learn to delegate. You need to learn to set people tasks and give them clear instructions. And then they will do that. And I think as a self-employed, multi-talented, multi-responsible person, it's hard to let go of any one thing because you need to see it being ticked off for you to move on.
Yeah. So I suppose, like, I think, like, I don't know about you, but I went to uni and I've had a lot of, like, team projects that just, like, went to shit.
Yeah.
And it's not just film based, it's all of them. I remember my buddy I used to live with was, like, on this, like, he's doing aerospace engineering. He had a team project, and it's, you know, aerospace engineering, you're literally building airplanes and everyone's there is like a goddamn genius. You have to be to build an airplane. Like, but even that, like, everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone got the good grades to get in that course in the second year. And just, like, some people are just like, they're not doing the work. And it's just like, you know, you're never going to build an airplane if you're at that. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, you know.
I'm a dyslexia support coach for the universities as well. So when I'm not working here, I do work with people going through their degree. But I think there's two things that stress people out most: uncertainty, which is the biggest thing for everybody, regardless of your professional practice. And then teamwork. Group works are just that people they tense up, and you can even talking about the group work, it's like, I can't rely on other people for my success. And that's one of the hardest things that people face.
It's fucking hard to let go as well, because you have, like, all that, like, that experience justifying it. But I believe that is everything. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's a quick insight into what happened here. I think it was a very interesting project to be involved in because of, well, the narrative was good. I think personally, as a being removed from the narrative, listening to it unfold, I think that your story was well paced, and I think the dialogue was well constructed too. So it was an enjoyable process to be part of. Yeah. And I think we used to have the recording booth in this room where we're sitting now in the live room. It's now in the control room. I think you were in the control room as we were doing the credits. And I think just having the people about the space and moving about and using the space and having access to that kind of talent really did bring the project to life. Mm. So if you want to know anything about Amps and what we do here, or you want to check out what Des is doing, then by all means you can reach out and say hello. And Des is always ready for a recommendation on the Build This Network.
Yeah, but like, don't be weird about it, because if you be weird about it, I will block you. Like, I have blocked people. I'm not as bad as Frank Cannon. Frank says he's blocked 2,000 people on Facebook, and I'm just like, I don't even know like 50 people. I don't know how you can block 2,000. You know what I mean? Just like, you know.
But then, you know, that is the classic kind of midlife man of, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah.
But it's also not even people he knows. So he sees like someone like make a nasty Facebook comment on like a news article that he's like not even read. He just like read the headline, sees a guy like make an absolute fool of himself in the comment section. He's like, blocked. Like, yeah. but it's, you know, that's a good way to live, though.
Absolutely. You have to protect your mind, because in all instances, all that negativity does affect you, whether you register it affecting you or not. Yeah. But it's like a million paper cuts.
So I can't, like, you know, I thrive on negativity. Like I can't take like actual positive reinforcement whatsoever. So anyone like I had this like teacher back in careers when I was like in like fourth year, we're doing GCSEs and basically talking about our interest in what you want to do for a living. I remember at the time I was very interested in like stop motion animation. Like I was a big fan of like Lego channels and stuff like that. Is like how they done like animated stuff. I remember like he just like he was reading out my interest. He's like, so like you like stop motion animation? And he said it in like such dismissive tone, and I just like felt so much fucking anger, and I was just like, I'm gonna make a movie, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I will. And just, it hasn't happened yet, but it's gonna happen. And as soon as I do, I'm just gonna make a weak credit I'm gonna call him out in the credits. Yeah.
You make an interesting point though, because careers teachers and anybody that's giving you any kind of professional advice in inverted commas are only giving you what their own experience or their own vision is.
And even
that's useless to anybody creative, because they can't see your potential and they can't see what you can create. So don't ask careers advice. Seek out people who do what you do and ask them what worked for them, because that's not going to work for you either, but it'll give you an opportunity to explore what it takes or how you can do it, and give you an opportunity for a springboard for your own creativity. Because there's people making millions off NFTs now, and there's people who don't even understand what those letters mean. And there's people making money off music, off touring, off selling merchandise. There's people who make money just off influencing, standing beside cars and taking photographs. The world is a place full of opportunity, and there's a constant supply of money moving back and forward from people. You just need to find a bucket that you can stick in that river and collect some of that money to generate whatever you need to do to get wherever you want to be. There's nothing that's set out. There's nothing that's predicted. And any kind of careers advice I've always been given is from the very narrow perspective of that person's experience. And a person who works in a school telling you about jobs is not a person who's going to give you careers advice, in my opinion.
That's fair. And Craig there just showed off he's, missed his calling as a motivational speaker.
This is part recording studio, part cathartic exercise. Most of the time when we're in here, when the microphones are live, you're dealing with people's inner critic.
Yeah.
It's not about their performance. It's about the stories to tell themselves in order to put themselves off doing it because they're afraid in case what they want to achieve doesn't come out the way they want it. And the drama that most people have to live through is your taste is more developed than your skill set.
That's true.
And you need to develop that. And there's time. It's all time, practice.
All the time in the world. But outside of that, we are out of time today. Craig, you've been a delight. Thanks so much for having us here.
Thank you very much for coming to see us, and thanks for recording here.
No worries. Again, guys, thanks so much for listening. I'm going to be producing more audio stuff. I'll keep you guys up to date. Keep an eye on Craig Sheridan. Keep an eye on Amps Studio. These guys are great. If you live in Belfast, you live in Ireland, worth reaching out if you have like project in mind. With that in mind, thanks so much for listening, and farewell.
Thank you.
And that was my interview with Craig. Again, this was recorded back in August, so some things may have changed in regards to the studio, but like Craig said, it's always worth checking in with the sound engineers and the studio manager themselves. My edit was a little rushed as I have a lot of work and projects I'm juggling around. The pacing was a bit off because I'm not a very good speaker, so I had to try to edit around that. I also tried to make sure the published interview remained relevant to the topic at hand, so some stuff is left on the cutting room floor. I have more How I Made the Witch in the Orchard audio commentary episodes coming up, alongside an interview with artist Kevin McHugh. They will be uploaded at a later date. Until then, thank you for listening, and goodbye.